Hello, welcome to another Planswell webinar. I'm very excited to have you here tonight. Lots of people starting to stabilize in the numbers there. I'm Eric, CEO at Planswell. Very excited to be here, feeling awesome. Just ate a delicious salmon steak. Actually, it was the same thing I ate last time we did a webinar. Drank a nice caffeine-free Diet Coke because it's getting a little late in the evening tonight. But yeah, trying out this new kind of time slot. Being a little bit inclusive to other people and their schedules, especially when we're going coast to coast. Some of you are experiencing 5 p.m. at the moment. It's 8 o'clock here in Toronto and Eastern time. So I have an exciting presentation to take you through today. It's honestly my favorite thing to talk about is really the core fundamentals of sales. And so for me, anytime I get invited to sales training of any kind, I'm there. I go to sales pitches to get pitched for fun. When I'm on vacation, I'm always looping my wife into coming to timeshare presentations just because I can't get enough of the process that they're going through, trying to figure out, what is the science of success here. It's just unbelievable going to, I don't know if you've ever been to a timeshare presentation, but you see all the people walking out with their bag. They just bought the timeshare on their very first visit, and it's pretty big ticket item. So that plus, basically every other high ticket item I've ever come across, just been able to soak up the sales there. And when somebody invites me to a sales training, I think of myself as somebody who's pretty well versed and I've read a lot of sales books and done a lot of sales training myself, but any chance I get to go, I'm there. And even though a lot of it is kind of refresher and stuff that I already know, I always take something away, and if nothing else, then just to get more pumped up and excited to get back out there. So I'm going to take you through my process that I've taken from a bunch of different sources and different sales trainings over the years, and distilled it down into 7 basic concepts that we can take you through. Now, I did one of these a little while back on rapid rapport, and rapid rapports, we're going to touch on that today. But this is more of an overarching kind of process, and this training typically is about a 3-hour training session, and based on feedback and what people are liking about this, we could dive into something like that. Today we're going to do it in probably 20-30 minutes to go through the 7 steps and elaborate on them, give you some insights, and then at the end open it up to questions, and that's always really good for more more content. So that Q&A can go 30 minutes or so. I got all night, so I'll just stay on here, but yeah, feel free to stick around for that. And I'd love to know what you think about it. So yeah, here, 7 steps, close any deal. This comes from my very first thing that I sold as a real kind of job was window cleaning. I was selling birthday parties to kids and coupon booklets door to door when I was 10. But when I was in university, I started a window cleaning company. It was through a franchise system, College Pro. You might have heard of that. It was a big painting franchise, and they also had a window cleaning arm. And I had a phenomenal experience with a rookie of the year. I made like $20,000 my first year and $40,000 in my second year. It was just amazing. I used that to go on 15 different cruises with my girlfriend at the time, is my wife now. No more cruises for obviously reasons right now, but in the last few years, we've had 4 kids, and that's not the ideal time to be going on cruises. But yeah, the key takeaways were, after having so many opportunities to knock on doors, thousands of doors, I closed over 500 window cleaning jobs. I got it down to an exact script and an exact science of the steps that needed to be taken. And then I started teaching them to people in my second year and training up 9 different people that were knocking on doors with me. I've taken that and I've refined it over the years. I've sold Volvos at a dealership nearby, and sold landscaping, a lot of stuff door to door. Got into online sales and over the phone sales, selling hydro refunds for a big power company, and I found that these 7 steps are tried and true, and they actually are applicable and transferable to any industry. So when I started as a high net worth investment advisor at CIBC Wood Gundy, which is the former Merrill Lynch branch for our American friends, I was able to use the exact same steps in my process of delivering financial plans to people and bringing them on as clients. And then I went to Investors Group which is more of a holistic planning company, with more of like an insurance approach that the high net worth shop didn't do. And I use the same exact steps there. And so we've used them in Planswell to take on clients over the last couple of years, and 200,000 plans built and thousands of clients implemented. We use the same steps when we're talking to advisors for the first time and helping them understand what we're doing here at Planswell and building a relationship there to onboard advisors. And I think that you can use them too in your business, not just in calling Planswell users, but just in general. So we're going to jump into it here. So right off the bat, we have step one, rapid rapport. So I'll touch on it briefly because we actually have another section that we've done on this. We're going to send out at the end of this. We're going to give you the deck. We're going to give you the rapid rapport link that you can also find in the help center to have a full 20 minutes just on step one. Step one is the most important. If you don't hit that rapport right away, you don't get the opportunity to do steps 2 through 7. So we can spend hours talking about rapid rapport. But the basics of it is that people buy because they like you and because they think you're like them, right? So they buy because they relate to you. Relating to you makes them like you. And these are the things that you need to accomplish in like 5 seconds when you have an initial interaction with somebody. So the two key, like the line here when you meet somebody is, how are you doing today? And that's been debated about, is that a useful line? Is it just like a coming out of muscle memory in the brain? Does it really mean anything? If it's just how are you doing today, and they say good, you, and you say good, then that's exactly what it is, and then you might as well not use it. There's some other studies saying that just getting them to give that positive affirmation, even if it is automatic, actually puts them in a better mood to be open to what you're going to talk about. But I think that it's the most amazing opportunity, and it's the most unused or underused opportunity or missed opportunity in any sales process, because you ask how they're doing, they give you an automatic response, good, you. And even if they don't say you and actually pass it back and ask how you're doing, which happens sometimes it's like good, it's fine. Just assume that they did and just go on, tell them how you're doing. And when you tell them how you're doing, this is the key, is that you got to open up with a story here. And you tell them a story of why you're feeling good, right? It's not just I'm good. It's like I opened the session with, I just ate a beautiful salmon steak and had some caffeine-free, Diet Coke, and that just puts me in an amazing mood. It gives me fantastic energy, and I'm just really excited to be talking to you right now. I'm really in the mood for this. That contains, something that is probably relatable, unless you're, a vegan, in which case I apologize. But generally, like a good, good meal is something that people can relate to. And I took that from Hugo Boss store at Toronto Premium Outlets. It was one of those outdoor malls, similar to like the Florida ones. I don't know why they built it here because it's snowy half the year. But I was with my wife shopping and didn't really want to buy anything, and she was in the store. I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna go across, check out Hugo Boss, my favorite place for suits. Didn't need a suit, but I was just wasting some time. So I go into the store. I'm dressed in, sweatpants, basically, like not feeling really in the zone there, and a bit embarrassed, and definitely don't want to talk to anybody. And I walk in, this woman's standing there, perfect outfit, like wearing like a nice like suit, and she's like looking all like perfect. And I'm like, oh God, don't talk to me. And I start walking over, and she's like, hey, how are you doing today? I'm like, good, you? And she's like, I was driving into work today, and I drove through McDonald's and had a sausage and egg McMuffin for breakfast. And, that just gives me so much energy, and I always just have a fantastic day. So I'm doing great. And immediately my guard was down, and I relate to this woman, and we are on the same page, even though she's dressed perfectly and I'm dressed in sweatpants. And I end up buying a $300 coat on impulse. So that's, took that away. I was like, that really is a powerful line. So I recommend using, what your last meal was, or some other really interesting thing that just happened in your life that is likely to be something that they would relate to. So there's your rapid rapport. Step 2, logistics. So about 5 seconds after you fail to set logistics, anxiety sets in. So if you get called on the phone from a telemarketer and you pick up and they just start going on about whatever their script is, and they're not asking anything, they're just talking. You get about 5 seconds into that and you're like, what is going on? I did not agree to this. I don't know what you're talking about. It feels like this is going to go on for the next 5 years, and you're 5 seconds in. And the more that time goes on, the more the anxiety, the more you're shutting down, the more you're like, absolutely, I'm not doing this deal. if they get on the phone and they say, hey, this is going to take 1 minute, can I explain this for 1 minute? And you agree to that 1 minute, then you're good for 1 minute. You're like completely at ease. You've agreed to that. 1 minute and 5 seconds, the anxiety starts to build, and the trust starts to deplete. So logistics is a very, very key part. If you miss logistics, you'll lose the sale 100% of the time. So what that means is, after that rapid rapport, which often can happen before you even introduce what you're doing or why you're talking to them, I would do it at the door when I was knocking on doors. We'd have a whole conversation about the rug that I could see on the floor when they opened the door. I love Persian rugs. I went on a cruise, stopped at Turkey, saw how they were made, had this huge conversation. And then after like 5 minutes, they're like, well, why'd you knock on my door? So then it's like, great, I knocked on your door because I want to give you a free estimate for window cleaning or whatever we're selling. Do you want a free estimate? They say yes. Great. Typically, the way that the estimate works is I ask you a bunch of questions, and then I tell you a little bit about my business, and I ask you some questions about your experiences. Then I go out and I make an estimate for you, make a proposal. Then I come back and I show you the proposal, and then we talk about whether or not you want to do the job. Typically, it takes 5 minutes at the beginning. There's a break, and then there's another 5-10 minutes at the end. Does that work for you? And if the answer is anything other than yes, then the deal stops. The process stops. I leave. I reschedule a time if they're interested and come back. I don't modify that process, but I get buy into it. If they say yes to that, then I'm free for the next 20 minutes to take them through my process, and they can't complain about it. So setting logistics is super key. Step 3, the intro. So you've got logistics. We're gonna sit down. We're gonna have this meeting. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about myself and what I do, why I do it. I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions about your experiences, outside of your finances or outside of like the actual, meat and potatoes of what we're going to get into. I want to know about you and your, what you're looking for. Then I'm going to actually go, usually it's a second meeting. I'm going to come back with a proposal or a plan, or I'm going to come back with some ideas for you and walk you through them. And if it all looks good, then, we'll decide if it's a good fit for both of us to work together. And if it's not something I can serve you, help you with, or if it's not the right fit for you, let me know, and we'll decide at that point. Is that good? Set the logistics good? Okay, into the intro. Awesome. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. So you open up. So you originally set the rapid rapport with one kind of sentence, right? So I've shared that I like salmon. And I've shared that I, don't sleep well at night if I have caffeine past like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I'm drinking caffeine-free Diet Coke. Those are some personal details. You share 8 personal details. And you've seen this in the sales training that we do and the scripting that we provide that our team has used, hundreds of thousands of times to really script out that 8 personal details. If you try and wing it early on and it's not rehearsed, it's not practiced, it's not scripted, nobody ever gets to 8. You get to like 1 or 2, you freak out, and then you move on, and it's not effective. So you want to share 8 personal things. And these are not the obscure degree that you got that makes you some kind of expert that is absolutely not relatable. This is 8 things that are relatable. You're talking about family status. I've already told you that I have 4 kids. I told you that I like to go on cruises. You're picking these things up just naturally from me because I lace them into everything that I'm saying. But in the beginning, when you're practicing this, just put it all in one block. It's okay if it's a bit awkward. You just kind of go through it. And what you're doing is you're watching to see their eyes light up. They're going to want to reciprocate on certain points that they really relate to, and that's what you're looking for. So I call it, like, in my mind, I always think of it as like fly fishing. I've never been fly fishing, but I've seen it in like movies and stuff. They get the fishing rod, and it like kind of flies over, and it taps the water, and they like pull it back. And if it doesn't have a fish, they tap the water somewhere else. You're using these 8 things to kind of tap at their world that you don't know much about yet. They haven't really opened up yet. And you're hoping that they light up, and then you can have a conversation about that. And so you kind of you're going to go through that story, and then that story personally kind of blends into your origin story. So this is the story of why you do what you do. Nobody cares really what you do, and that'll come up later on in the presentation. You need to get through it, but people care about why you do it. Your motivations. Are you trustworthy? Is it honorable? Is it altruistic? Are you really interested in me? Are you really interested in helping me? And why would you be? Because it's a strange thing to not be just completely self-interested. So help me understand why. So I've heard some amazing origin stories about people going through financial struggles growing up, or helping some of their first clients and realizing they were able to refinance this home. One of our first stories at Planswell was a couple that had twins, obviously unexpectedly, and needed to renovate their house. They renovated the house, and then dad lost the job, and then they had $90,000 of credit card debt and 2 kids. And then I got a new job, and they're working through it, and they're struggling and trying to maintain this debt. And they come into Planswell, and we're like, hey, look, like you could refinance this debt into your mortgage. Your house has gone up in value. You renovated it. And they were like, no, we can't. It's a 5-year mortgage in Canada. It's mostly 5-year. And I think it was even like a fixed rate mortgage. We're like, no, you can. And no one had ever explained how debt consolidations work. We were able to consolidate that debt, clear the $90,000 off the credit card, bring it down to a low interest rate, free up tons of cash flow that we're paying at high interest, like thousands of dollars. And that was able to go towards paying off their mortgage faster and putting money towards their investments and setting up the right insurance. And they were just like unbelievably grateful and unbelievably floored that we were able to help them with that. That was a huge origin story for our team when we're selling our team on why we're doing this. And so I've heard people say, there was the family and they helped set the stuff up, and then the dad was crying at the kitchen table because now they could put their kids into hockey, and that was such an important thing. So there's an origin. Everybody's got a great origin story or a great client story of why they're motivated to do this and why they want to help. So that's the story really of who you are. It's really not about your degrees and your letters behind your name. And there's research that shows that people really don't care about much of that. It's not about the brand of the bank or the company that you work at. It's really about you, the person, and can you get that across to people? So that's the intro. What you're going to do when they're reciprocating to this is, in all of this stuff, you want to have the client or the prospect speaking about 70% of the time. So that's the challenge in this. This is why scripting can be challenging if you're just doing everything to a T and not opening it up in your mind and in your scripting. Really, the scripting is like trying to pull the information out. It's the questions that you're asking. It's the process that you're taking them through. So when they start to reciprocate, just two quick concepts that you can get out of Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, fantastic book, would be mirrors and labels. So mirrors are when they finish a sentence and they're being a bit reserved. They're not as rehearsed as you are in this. They don't have their story that they're ready to tell exactly. And you just repeat the last couple sentences. So they tell you that now they're going to be able to put their kids in hockey. You would say, in hockey? And then they would elaborate on their experience with hockey and their experience with, how important it is that their kids do it because they got to do it and their grandfather did it, whatever. That's a mirror. So you just keep using the last couple words, word or two of what they said, and it will help them elaborate and tell you more. And the other one would be labeling. So they tell you something, and this works a lot with objection handling later on. But when they tell you something, you can unlock that by putting a label on it. So you're just going to say, it sounds like, or it feels like, or it looks like, and then you're going to label very bluntly what you're hearing or what you're saying, or what they're saying summarize it. And when it's dealing with like an objection, you're going to put like a negative spin on it. And you're going to try and get them to say, no, that's not what I said. This is what I meant. Or they're going to say, yeah, that is how I feel. And at least you have a place to work with. But you can use it in the rapport section as well, because they're gonna, there's like cruises. It sounds like you really value vacationing, and then they're gonna, yeah, I love vacationing. So mirrors and labels, and definitely check out Never Split the Difference. Step 4, needs analysis. So all of these steps, if you miss one step, it screws up your closing ratio royally. If you hit every single step perfectly, generally it should be in the 90-95% close rate range. And I'll get to qualifying later on, because it doesn't mean every single person you walk by you're going to close 95%. They got to be the right people, and that's important. We talked about that a little bit in logistics, because if they're not open to your logistics and going through your process the way that you do it, they're not qualified. So they will be qualified later when they're available, or they're just not qualified. There's no point in taking someone through a process that's modified that doesn't hit all 7 of these steps. It's just a waste of your time. So step number 4, needs analysis. This is where you may have gotten them to reciprocate throughout the first 3 steps, and you may have had a great conversation. I hope you have at this point. If you haven't, you're still in the unknown zone of whether you're going to close the deal. By the end of step 4, you should know that you're closing the deal. And this is a super, super powerful step. So whether or not they've opened up to you previously, they will open up to you in this step, or you might as well cancel the process. So now, I told you a little about me. Now I'd like to ask you a few questions. So you're reiterating your logistics that you already set. So I'd like to know what your experience has been like. Have you ever worked with a financial advisor, whatever you're presenting yourself as. And they tell you yes, or they tell you no. If they tell you yes, what did you like about it? Was there anything that they could have done differently? And you're now going to go through a series of questions that are going to get further and further away from what is logically like discussed. Like you're going to talk about what you liked about your financial advisor, what you didn't like about your financial advisor. What about where you get advice from outside of professional advice? Who do you listen to for advice? Where have you been given advice in the past? What was good advice? What was bad advice? What did you like? What didn't you like? What about services that provide you, how do you, what kind of companies have you worked with in the past that you really liked? Credit card companies, banks, mortgage providers. Have you ever had a really great experience with like a service experience outside of price and cost? Like, what's been really good? Have you ever had a bad experience with like a mortgage broker or a realtor? What was how have you experienced, working with realtors and professional services in general? What else do you look for when you're deciding to work with somebody? Like, what have you seen that's been really good in the past, and what could have been better? What about like people that you ask to do services for you, like on your property? Have you ever had people come and work for you here? Like the cable person, like installing cable. Like what, tell me some stories about people that you've worked with before that you really liked. I'd love to know, where, times that they didn't, they fell short of your expectations. And you keep going on this for as long as they're willing to talk. This could be like 20 minutes. If this is 20 minutes, you absolutely are bringing on this client. Sometimes they're going to be really cagey. They don't like asking questions. They like listening to you. They kept their guard up the whole time. Now you're asking them questions. They're freaking out. And that's okay. You can still break through that. You're going to keep going until it gets awkward. Okay. When it gets awkward, that's when you roll out the money line. But before I get to the money line, what you're going to uncover throughout all this is a bunch of emotional hot buttons, obviously. So what you're looking for is emotional hot buttons on negative stuff and emotional hot buttons on positive stuff. Fantastic stories. The dentist that was super kind and caring to your kid, and that was one of them that we got out of a client. And you're going to hear the story about the family member who did the real estate job and screwed you over. And you're going to get these stories. Don't close on the emotional hot buttons. Okay. The rookie instinct is to be like, I'm not going to do that bad thing, or I'm just like this dentist that did a fantastic thing for your daughter. Don't do that. Take it in, make notes of it, write this stuff down, empathize with it. Empathizing is the only thing you're allowed to do in this stage. Oh, that must have been terrible. Oh, that must suck. Oh yeah, maybe related. Oh, I've had this other experience. Yeah. But let them do the talking. Oh, that's fantastic. I'm so glad to hear that you had that great experience. I really wish I had a great business like that. Empathize with it, relate to it a little bit. Don't close on it. You're going to save those for later. These are very, very important, data points that you're going to use later on in the close. So you're going to keep going on this until it gets super awkward. Not like super, super awkward, but like you're going to get that sense. You're going to get that look of like, why are they asking me about my dentist? I don't understand. Or why, maybe you got all the way to cable guy. Why are they asking me about the cable guy? I don't understand. When you get that look, you get that uncomfortableness. That's the same look that we talked about in logistics. They don't understand what the heck is going on. They didn't agree to this part of the conversation. They're starting to get that anxiety. You want that to happen a little bit here. Then you use the money line. The reason I ask all this is because I want to understand what you would expect from me and my team, if you have one, if we were to work together. I want to make sure that you are enthusiastically satisfied with my service. And you will see that melt away, the calm is restored. And if you can get that line at the right moment to relieve that anxiety, I'm quite confident this is one of the most important lines. And I've just seen it. And that's the moment where you know that you have the client. All you have to do is not screw up the next steps, just get through them, and you have the client. At this point that you have the deal. Or you had to use the line early on. You had one of those cagey people that was like, not really giving you a lot. And then when you started asking anything that wasn't exactly related to being a financial advisor, they really started to get uncomfortable. Then you have to use the money line early, right? It's like, look, the reason I ask is I just want to make sure that I understand what you'd expect from me and my team, so that I can make sure that you have an enthusiastically satisfying experience when we work together. That will still, disarm them early on. And if you don't have that emotional hot button of the positive, at least I look for 2 positive and 2 negative, but at least one of each that's a really good story. Then you're going to continue on with the questioning. So you're going to say, yeah, so like, that's why I'm asking you this. Like, so I'd really love to know, about some experience that you've had. Can I ask you a couple more questions? And then you keep going on with the questioning, and you'll get to the end once you have those hot buttons. Then then they, they trust you. You listen to them. They feel good about it, and you're on clear sailing. If you can get all the stuff you need and use the money line, then that's fine. You don't revisit the questioning. You go on to the next step. So the next step is the presentation. So after that section, usually it's like, okay, awesome. Now I know where we're at. What I want to do now is prepare whatever I'm going to prepare. So if it's a financial plan, or I'm going to take a look at it. In the case of Planswell, it's like I'm going to take a look through your plan and try and understand a little bit more about it. And I'm going to come back to you with some questions. What I'm trying to figure out is, can we get you to retire a little bit earlier, or can I get you to have a little bit higher lifestyle in retirement? Or maybe there's some tax savings that we can do that a little bit more advanced. I'm just going to take a look through all this stuff and come up with some questions and some insights. Do you have anything that you think I should be looking for, or anything that might be wrong? Whatever. You're gonna set that up. You're gonna go do something, and you're gonna come back for the second meeting. So I always try to have those separated into two different meetings. So step 5 is the presentation. So this is not through Planswell. You're probably like meeting up to show them a financial plan, or you're doing it remotely now, but you're gonna walk them through it. So in this meeting, this is kind of more down to business. Now they're coming in. They're like, I want to know what the presentation is going to be. Generally, they want to know what the price is going to be, and they want to hear that very early on in this meeting, because it can be a very big distraction for people if you start showing them all the stuff that they want, like the stuff that they're going to buy from you and whatever the sale is. If they don't know what the price is, they actually can't engage to the same level until you get that out of the way. So I usually start with price like early on. So in the case of financial advisory, it's talking about how you make money. You don't generally get into it in the first meeting unless they're asking. But at this point, it's like, look, this is what I want to do in this. Set the logistics. I'm going to walk you through this plan. I've got some cool insights for you. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my business and what this costs to get these benefits and understand what the benefits are. And you get into those things. So in the presentation, you're going to get through the benefits and the costs. And the benefits, like, I'm sure you've heard this before, but the difference between features and benefits, nobody cares about features. Features would be, we have this plan, we do this rebalancing, we do this tax loss harvesting, like whatever there's lots of stuff that you can talk about in the financial industry that are features. Most of it is like gibberish to people. But even if they do understand it, what people want is the benefits. People want to know that when they get to retire, they want the biggest thing people actually want out of all of this is knowledge, more than the long term. Having more money when I'm 87 years old, that's nice. I don't care about that, even though I should. I don't care about having the difference between an extra $200,000 or less than $200,000. What I care more about is the knowledge and the comfort of knowing where I'm going to be, and the pride and the ego of feeling confident about my current situation. So they actually want that knowledge, and that's a benefit. And then the rest of the benefits of having that lifestyle in the future. So you're going to go through that. You're going to emphasize, like I said before, like what the most important thing to me is that all the people that I work with are enthusiastically satisfied with the value that I'm bringing them. And if at any point in time you're not, this is an incredibly easy thing to undo. A lot of people think that there's a high cost of switching. We're going to do all this work. It's really not. It's really like quick signature to decide to work with me. And then if you decide not to work with me, it's really easy to transfer it out. I'll help you do it. Like, I absolutely do not want to have clients around that are not enthusiastically satisfied. So I can make it really easy for you to leave. Make sure they understand that. And then also bring up referrals. A lot of people think referrals is what you ask for once somebody becomes a client. Well, in most sales processes, the close rates are a lot lower. So you want to ask at the beginning. You're going to ask exponentially more people for referrals, and people often send referrals before they actually become a client. In this case, because you're going to be an expert in closing 95% of the people, it doesn't really matter. But this is a great time to bring up asking for referrals. And I tied in with that enthusiastic satisfaction guarantee. The reason I want everyone to be enthusiastically satisfied is because that's how I grow my business. I serve people who are important to the people who are my clients. So they often refer in their neighbors and their cousins and their aunts and their uncles and their family members. And I want to make sure that everybody's having a fantastic time working together, and that I can create a lot of value for them. So I want to make sure that it's the right fit for both. So I think in your case, we're going through this plan and presenting it, and I think there's a lot of stuff that I can add value. And we're going through what it's going to cost to do that. And the benefits obviously drastically outweigh the costs of working together. So that's the presentation. Step 6, ask for the business. Very simple, one sentence probably. Has to be identified in sales training as an actual step, because people shockingly miss it. So many times people will actually do a presentation and then it will just kind of trail off. And we've watched it. We've done tens of thousands of call recordings in our previous business, and we listened to every single word. We had worked with software to identify keywords that were beneficial in closing people and develop scripts from that. But in every time I've done sales training, like in the field, and done role modeling and then like shadowing it as people do sales, it's unbelievable the times that people just don't ask for the business. So at the end, you get to the end of the presentation. This is where you're going to pull out the emotional hot buttons that you saved from the needs analysis. So now is the time where you're like, yeah, so that's really kind of what I think we should do, and where I think it's going to get you, and how much it's going to cost. And the most important thing is that you're enthusiastically satisfied. I'll show you how to unwind this if you decide that you're not. You can always back out later. But what's most important to me is that you'll see me as an experience similar to the dentist that took care of your family. Like, that's what I'm going to do for you, and make sure that that you always feel that you're being heard, and that people are taking the time, and that it's not rushed. All the things that you told me about the dentist, and I'm absolutely going to make sure that I always have your best interests in mind, and that I'm very clear with those interests, and I'm very clear with my interests, so you understand how I'm compensated, and you understand all the conflicts of interest that your family member, uncle, asshole that did the real estate thing. You're never gonna, like, I want to make sure that you never fall into something like that again. So transparency is key. So with all that said, the next step would be typically to prepare the documents and start the process of transferring in. Or if it's more of an insurance need that's off the bat, it's a little bit softer of a close. Like, look, let's actually get the pricing to make sure that you can actually do this plan, because the insurance pricing sometimes is a bit lower. Sometimes it comes back and it's we got to rethink some things. Now the next step is just to test out. There's no obligation until you actually decide. Let's get the actual prices. Let's move forward with the application. So whatever it is, like, the next steps are implementing something and signing something. Should we go ahead and do that? This might pull out an objection. Probably not. If you've hit every step along the way, usually there are no objections at the end. Objections come from missing stuff. And so when you're pulling information out of them, stories and needs analysis, you're generally going to get all of those objections and build the trust. Objections usually are a lack of trust. Something was missed. So if you do get an objection here, you come back to the mirrors and labeling concept. So that you're going to use the mirrors to draw out the objection, get them to flesh it out, get them to explain it more, talk through it. And then the labeling, when you're not sure, because usually objections are kind of masked. So it's like the objection, I'm going to talk to my spouse, or going to, whatever the typical objection is. It's not the real objection. So the real objection is, I don't trust you, usually. So, or I think this is a scam, or I think you're ripping me off, or I think whatever. So you're using the label can be very powerful when you get an objection like that. Again, you probably won't at this stage, but when you do, using a label, we use it at the very beginning when we're getting objections on the call. Like, I bet you think this is a scam. You filled in a bunch of information, and we're calling you and trying to rip you off or something. And you just pause and let them go, no, that's not what I think at all. I did some research on the company, it looks great. I'm just actually really busy right now. I'm making some salmon for dinner. Or they're like, yeah, I'm kind of weirded out by it. and you actually are on the same level, and now you can actually address the real objection. And so that's step 6. That's the end of the sale. Step 7 is more of a concept that you have to have in every step. You have to have throughout the whole thing, and that's confidence. So you can go through all of the steps. If it's not rehearsed well, and it doesn't come off as sincere, or it comes off as scripted, or you just come off with low confidence in general, low energy, just uncertainty about what you're doing, that's so important. So you have to be confident, and the way that you get the confidence is by practicing, right? So you practice. More at bats is key. That's something I've always found interesting about the financial industry, is that the number of clients a financial advisor serves over the course of their career is one of the lowest numbers of any professional service. So there's really not a lot of opportunity to improve. When you're knocking on doors, you're knocking on thousands of doors, telling hundreds of people things over the course of like 3 months. You can really improve those skills. It's really hard if you jump into the financial advisory business without any background in sales to actually get up to that level. So you got to make it a conscious effort to practice, calling random people, talking to people on the streets, getting into that, like practicing the rapport building, the rapid rapport, the needs analysis, asking questions. You could do that with random people and practice on that. Another way is super helpful is teaching. So bringing on a protege, bringing on an associate, bringing on an intern, somebody that wants to learn about the business, who wants to just shadow you for free, like whatever it is, bring them on, and then constantly preach your process to them. Teach them the process. Get them to do the process. Get them to watch you doing the process. And those things really hold you accountable. When you're just on your own, it's easy to like slack and just do 6 things instead of 8, or when you're actually teaching it, and you have to walk the walk that you're teaching. It really holds you up to a higher standard, and you'll see amazing results. Also, building that confidence. The other thing is really like in qualifying people. So in the beginning, when you're setting logistics, if they're not agreeing to your logistics, have the confidence to be like, great, this is not going to be a fit right now because of your logistics, your timing, or whatever. Like when can you do this? And standing your ground on that. Having the confidence to say no to people. Don't take on the client that is like very neurotic, or very like just the client that is not connecting with you, that you're not able to build rapport, you don't like them, and they're not liking you through the needs analysis. Don't do the second meeting. Go back, tell them you're going to do the second meeting, call them back after, be like, I thought about it a little bit. I don't think it's going to be the right fit right now, but I could refer you to somebody else. Don't take on those clients. And by not taking on those clients, obviously you're saving yourself a world of pain and headache. But it also actually builds your confidence. You know what you're looking for. You know the kinds of clients that you can serve, and you know the ones that you're not going to be able to create that much value for. And that's building confidence as well. That obviously is key to having that kind of 90-95% close rate. Is don't go through the second meeting if it's not likely to become a client, and you weren't able to succeed in the beginning part, usually because it was just not a good fit. So that's the end of the steps. Where are we at with timing? Nice. There's about half an hour. So I would love to answer any questions. I see a couple questions. I think Scott is going to join me here. Hey, Scott.
I'm here.
It's easier to have somebody else read the questions while the person talks, so that I don't have to break and read stuff out for you. So.
All right. So yeah, we got some questions coming in. I want to encourage everyone to throw more questions in the Q&A as we go through this. If you've been on our Tuesday and Thursday calls, it sounds rather redundant for those who were on this morning as well. You were stuck with me for a couple of minutes, but at least Eric will be answering the questions. So it will be a little bit of a fresh breath of air. Okay, so the first question is, I know we are early here, but I've already noticed some differences between the conversation Eric is speaking about. He has compared to the script I originally downloaded from Planswell before he first signed on. Have there been significant adjustments to the older script? Is there a new script that has new information in it, or anything like that?
Yeah, so the script that we use was something that was developed by a lot of different people. We spent $50,000 on one sales training guru that came in and did all these sessions with us and worked on the script with us. We had another person, like a top kind of head of sales for this other like massive company, come in and do all this consulting. So that script that you have is a accumulation of a lot of really good insight, and that's the script that we use to call thousands of people, and had a lot of success with it. We saw rookies coming in with no sales experience, no financial experience, using that script to close a huge amount of demos and a huge amount of clients. So I can speak very highly about that, and that's something that Lucas can go through on the office hours, the live webinars. There's tons of content in there about how to use that. A lot of advisors come in and say, this looks strange, it looks awkward, it's not exactly how I would speak. I would say work very hard to get the confidence to believe in that script and use it and try it and practice it. And it does work. We have lots of advisors on the platform using that exact script verbatim. We would also tell you that as you get your confidence up, as you feel really good about this, as you're learning lots of different concepts, it's not essential to use the script. We just want you to be successful. We just want clients to get served well. We believe that you are doing what's in the best interest of the client. We believe that the plan is in the best interest of the client. So we believe that if a client does not onboard, that we failed them. We failed them with the platform and the system. You failed them by not being good enough at sales, really, if you take that and internalize it a little bit. Because if they don't onboard the plan, they're going off into obscurity. They're going to sit there, watch Netflix, and eat some more ham sandwiches. So we really have to do everything that we can to bring on these clients. What I presented to you is purely, my own opinions, my professional background, my sales experience, and sales training that I've used with our sales team. And what we're trying to do is load up the quiver with extra lines, extra concepts, understanding the philosophy behind the sales, so that you can use it. So you can start to lace it in when you go a little bit off script and you can get into the conversations, you can know the things that you have to get. I would use the script that we have and just understand that you still have to hit all 7 of those steps. Those are kind of guidelines, and it all actually shows up throughout the script. But yeah, by all means, invent a better script, share it with us. We'd love to know about it. And I think we've had some conversations about starting like pilot groups with testing different script variations. It's something that we kind of miss doing when we had our own team in-house. We were constantly changing it up. Yeah, more questions.
Perfect. So I would love to hear a recording of the call, of a call with these applied if possible. So being able to actually see this in action.
Yeah, so I don't talk to clients too often. I've done them over the years. Usually when we were testing out a new lead source, because we changed like the platform that we serve ads on. Whenever somebody says that like the new ad campaign is not good or the lead source is not good, I would hop on calls then and book demos and work with people. But yeah, I don't have any recordings of working with clients exactly.
I think it's something we can look into. It was a follow-up item that came out of the one with Andy as well. So I think it's a matter of we might be able to get Andy on a bit of a role play in one of them at some point in time here, where we can go through a role play applying some of these principles, and then also some of the principles that Andy was going through on his last webinar that we put on as well. So for those of you who might want to see that, that's also in the Help Center if you want to see that recording. But I think that's something we could take away as an action item, Eric, and see if we can set something up with him for his next one to do a bit of a role play.
Yeah, for sure.
Perfect. So next question is, for the advisors who are humble, willing to learn, and following the script and everything you've laid out of that group, what percentage have you guys found is their closing rate? So I'm guessing what percentage closing rate are those people seeing on the platform?
I don't have actual data on that. I have like anecdotal stories from people that are having tremendous success. It's also tough because 10 households, which is like the typical package that people are on, is not like a statistically relevant sample size. So like we have advisors, like I remember an advisor came in and be like, yeah, this is fantastic. I called 10 people, I got 9 book demos. One of them referred somebody, and I've already got 11 demos out of the first 10 leads. That is not a typical situation. We've got advisors that come in like, I called 10 people did not answer the phone. And it's like, okay, well, let's take a look at this and let's work on this together. So I think over the course of a few months, I think we've heard 30 to 40% of calls being like very positive. And then, we've only been doing this since April. Like April, we only, brought on like their first 10 advisors, was basically just me on the phones. So now we have hundreds of advisors on the platform. So it's growing quite quickly. So like always the bulk of the advisors are really in the first couple of months. And so, this is like a pipeline building activity to a certain extent as well. So it would be hard to drill that down. We also don't know that everyone is using the like the dispositioning properly. So I think it's like half of the leads are not being dispositioned. So out of the ones that are dispositioned, it's over 40% dispositioned positively. And so if you were to assume that, yeah, I don't know what you can infer about the other ones other than people probably aren't calling all the leads right away, or they're not using the dispositioning. But about 40% is the number that's been thrown around as positive interactions with people.
Yeah, and we are getting better and better at that data piece, but that's why you'll hear me harp on that pretty much every single Tuesday and Thursday of updating those dispositions, because it'll help us understand and be able to provide that type of feedback on the platform as well. So that's something we will be looking into and continue to provide that data feedback to everyone on those Tuesday and Thursday calls. So another quick question.
But the nice thing, just breaking down on that question though, like the intro part about like the people that are humbled and leaning in and doing the webinars and like, trying really hard at this. I think like anecdotally, like those advisors, almost all of them succeed. So it's been actually remarkable watching the churn, because we do get like significant churn, like it's like 20 or 30% of advisors in the first like 2 to 3 months will drop off. Once people get through 3 months, they generally don't leave. But the ones that drop off versus the ones that stay, you like the ones that stay are like the household names. They're the ones that show up in all the webinars and they're leaning in, they're sending us emails. The ones that leave are like, I signed up like 2 months ago, didn't talk to anybody, like had a bad experience, didn't tell anybody about it. And then I just like decided to cancel today. And we're like, where have you been? Like, why did you not talk to us? So I think like those are the key traits is, that humility trait, I think is the biggest one. So when I talk to advisors, like when we're just bringing them on, I can usually tell. I can't always tell when somebody's going to be successful, but I can generally tell when somebody is not. And the key like function there is externalizing failure. So if they're telling me, like I always ask people, like what, I do the same needs analysis, the exact same script that I just showed you. This is what I do when I talk to advisors. When I'm doing needs analysis, I'm asking, like, what have you spent money on before in your marketing? Like, what have you done? What has gone well? What has not gone well? And if I'm hearing that like it's all everybody else's fault, the leads suck, the script suck, the system suck, everything sucks, those are the advisors that don't do well. The ones that come on that are like, I had a really good experience with this thing, I didn't succeed at this thing, and this is what I think I did wrong and what I could have done better on, but I got distracted and focused on this instead. The ones that internalize their failures and their successes and have high introspection generally do quite well.
Perfect. So the next one is a question of where is the script? So that's on your portal when you log in. So if you log into my.planswell.com or us.planswell.com, depending on which country you're in, /partner, there'll be a little button called the help desk. And then when you click there in the center, there's a section that calls the sales center, and the script is right there. So by all means, you can go in there or attend our Tuesday and Thursday sessions, and we'll walk you through exactly how to get to that point. All right, so next question that came up is, Eric, great session. I am actually one of the April signups. I've tried following your script, and this has and I have become a bit of gun shy. So it has helped me out, but I've become a bit gun shy. Any thoughts or feedback on how you might be able to get over this type of mindset?
Yeah, I think like I always tell salespeople I'm training, like it's a balance between like confidence is there's a balance between being arrogant and being like confident. Like you don't want to come off as arrogant. That's a super big turnoff. You always want to be sincere and definitely project that you're doing what's in the other people's best interests. But yeah, I've always found like when I hop on calls and I always get I get yelled at by the sales team, like historically, because they're like, you didn't follow the script, like you just did your own thing, like you're an anomaly, like don't do this. That's a bad example. But generally, like if I get on the phone with somebody and answer the phone, like to me, in my mind, like this is all mind stuff, right? So like in my mind, and I shared this a minute ago, I'll emphasize it again. This plan, it is in their best interest to implement this plan. The reason that they filled it out and they answered all these questions is because they are not confident in where they're going in the future. They need that confidence. This plan can give them the confidence if it was implemented. If it's not implemented, they're going to go off, they're going to forget. You call them 3 weeks from now, they don't even remember doing it. It's not true. These actually stay ripe for a very long time. But generally speaking, they're not going to do anything. They're going to go eat a ham sandwich, watch some Netflix, and keep going with their crappy like cash in their TFSA at the local bank branch or whatever they're doing, right? So we know, like I honestly believe that if they implement their plan with me, then they're going to be much better off. So I take it very personally if I cannot close them. If they don't implement with me, it's because I failed. I was not good enough at sales. I was not good, and it's not a dirty word. I'm not ashamed of being, using sales. I use sales with my kids. I use sales with my wife. Sales with our team. Sales with recruiting. And I use sales with clients. It's weird that the people have kind of put that down a little bit. I think it's a very valuable skill to have. And so yeah, for like 8-9 years, I blew out my birthday candles from the age of like 20 to like 30. I blew out my birthday candles, wishing for 100% close rate in sales. Like honestly, like across 10 different companies that we built, like that's always my birthday candle wish. Now it's a little bit different for what I hope for the future of Planswell, but I think that having that mentality of, I need to do this, I need to close this person for their sake, because it's a good thing for humanity that I do that. And then you have that mindset and you get on the phone and that like you're doing what's in their best interest, and that it's best for them that they work with you and they engage with you and they have this conversation with you. That gives you the confidence to really kind of push it into this conversation. And when I get on the phones with people, no matter how cold a lead is, it's like, look, like you answered a bunch of questions off of a random ad on Facebook. It would seem that you are curious about your future. If I could show you, and that, I'm just making this up off the cuff. That actually sounded a little bit too aggressive, but if I could walk you through in 5 to 10 minutes, some ways that could potentially save you literally, I say tens of thousands of people believe it, but it's really like hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of your life. from some tax efficiencies and some some shuffling this and shuffling that. If I could show you that in 5 or 10 minutes for free and give it to you, and you can walk away and you can implement it wherever you want, wherever you're most comfortable, would it be worth, even if it was 1% chance that I was telling the truth, would it be worth spending 5 or 10 minutes having that conversation? I've never had somebody say no to that. I had one guy say no to that because his wife was like a financial advisor at some whatever. There's some major conflict to it, but it's like, of course they're gonna have that conversation. It's a free conversation. You're clearly just trying to help that person. Like and I'll tell people if I ever seen that they don't, they're giving the fish eye or whatever. It's like, I'll blatantly say we are on a very altruistic mission here. Like we definitely believe that the entire world needs access to free, actionable advice so that they can maintain their lifestyle. We put it right in the first email they get. If you've seen it, if you built a plan, the first email that comes out, it's like, look, over half of Canadians retire on less than $15,000 a year. That's a tragedy. And that is because, I wasn't good enough to close every single Canadian just yet. But if we do, then we're going to fix that. And so these are the talk tracks that I tell myself in my head all the time. And this is what motivates us to move forward with building Planswell. And I think like really kind of that self-talk is really going to, amp you up to be able to feel confident in doing this.
Perfect. So he thanked you and said, thank you very much for that, Eric. And then, so there's one that I'm going to get on now because we are a little bit over time, but just to let everyone know, will this session be available and review later for the Planswell site? The answer is yes. So everything that we do at Planswell is recorded. So this session, every single Tuesday and Thursday session, they are all available on that Help Center in your portal. And we will also probably email a link to this presentation since you attend it. We'll email it directly to you as well. But everything that we always do is always recorded and will be available online.
We're emailing you the deck. So you have this exact deck. We'll email you a recording of this. We're going to send you a recording of the rapid rapport session that we did a few weeks back, so you can revisit that. We're also going to send you a 20-page ebook that I wrote about exactly this, except it's fleshed out with stories about selling window cleaning. So it's a really interesting kind of read, and you get that like everything is transferable, but it's written from the perspective of a window cleaner. I wrote it more recently, obviously for you as the audience, but so we'll send that out in an email.
Perfect. So somebody just posted questions that I had a lead where a name was entered that was not a word. It was just a letter typed 4 times. How do I address this when I call them?
So when people get into it, right, there's lower trust initially before we, give them value. Obviously, people are trained these days to be a little bit skeptical of data on the internet, which all the more reason why, if they're actually doing it, they're fairly interested in their financial future. The name question comes up very early on. Everyone, obviously knows that what you put into that name box is not used in the calculations of this plan. It's just a nice thing for user experience to be able to see your name throughout the plan. And so sometimes people don't put their name in. Sometimes they put in the initials. Sometimes if you look at the email address often has the name in it, and you can see that the initials kind of match that. So you can kind of get some creative thinking going. But yeah, if we still distribute them if they don't have a full name, because it's not worth throwing out the plan. I think people still need the financial advice, and it's still a valuable opportunity. So yeah, I would just breeze over that and be like, hey, I'm calling about Planswell, and you answer a bunch of questions off the internet, and you put in a bunch of random digits for your name. That's cool. Lots of people do that. Most people don't really trust us until after we show them a pretty cool insight into when they get to retire. But is this ringing a bell for you? So just having confidence. Like, I know what I'm doing is in the best interest of the client. I know that I have an altruistic mission. I know that I love helping people. I know that it makes me feel good to bring other people value. There's nothing to be ashamed of. There's nothing to be nervous about, right? So it's just, this is what it is, right? Have that confidence.
And to be a broken record, we actually have a Help Center article on how to address this as well with a couple other talking points. I'll probably get slapped at some point here for continuing to bring that up, but there is some more information there on the Help Center with some how-tos on that. So great question coming in here. In that second meeting, you present the recommendations first, and then correct me if I'm wrong, you talk about the benefits of how much your service costs. Since most advisors don't charge an out-of-pocket fee, but rather earn money from either a mutual fund MER or the insurance commission, how do you explain that to them? Have you ever explained what have you explained to people in the past on how you were compensated?
Yeah, so I've worked in the industry where I was a a fee-based investment advisor for high net worth. And so I would tell people typically it was 1% is what I charge them for managing their assets. And that was across all asset classes. And you know, it was helped reduce the bias of what we were going to do. And so you lay that out. That's fairly straightforward. I moved to a company that was more focused on mutual funds. And even in the first company, I used mutual funds mostly because you know, who am I to be, you know, picking stocks when you got these like super geniuses out there, you know, killing it. So I did find that I was very good at assessing mutual fund managers. And I would go to all these road shows, and like some of them were just absolute duds. I couldn't believe it. Like I couldn't believe they were managing billions of dollars for these massive banks and stuff. But then you come across and it's like, oh, this guy, you know, this person's got to figure out. I believe in this person, but and I did quite well with that. But I went to more of a MFDA focus, like a mutual fund focused company, which you know, generally all the advisors can do more holistic planning. It's more economical to do that, to have the insurance commission, sometimes, you know, mortgage referral fee or something, as well as the investments. And then I would explain it the same way there, right? Like when I used mutual funds, I just told you my talk track on why I use mutual funds. The same thing I would tell clients. I used to have stories. I had a story about this one advisor that came out and was like, look, we don't invest in biotech companies that are going to come in one morning and you know, the stock's down 40% because the mouse died. But actually we invested in the #1 breeder of medical mice, which has a massive barrier to entry, and they're constantly needing more. So there's just like one, like, you know, anecdotal story, and it's like that's the guy. He understands it. So that's who we invest with. But my job is to keep you informed as to what's going on with that, and to make sure that you're getting fantastic service and fantastic insights, because you know that person is a little too busy to talk to anybody. So that's value I'm adding here. So I get compensated as a portion of the fees in that fund. So the returns that you see in the fund is what you get, and I get I get paid from the mutual fund, and it's 1%. That's pretty much like industry standard. When we set up insurance, there's no cost to you. It's paid to me from the insurance company. Those commissions are set industry wide. Everybody gets the same commissions, whether it's, you know, whatever company we go with, it's going to be the same commission structure as well. So there's no bias there, or, you know, if there is a bias, you explain the bias. You know, I work at Sun Life might have a bias. I don't know, but I don't know how that works. But yeah, and then with the mortgages, like, look, if we do mortgages, the typical mortgage, you know, commission is about, I think it's 1% as well. Is that right? Is it 1% for mortgages?
Yeah, roughly.
Something like that.
9.
Yeah, and I get a portion of that for managing the process and you know, talking to you and collecting all the documents and stuff, and the rest of it goes to the mortgage broker that I'm working with, or I am the mortgage broker, and that's what I get paid. But that's what comes back from the company. Those are industry standards. They don't change. Everybody gets paid the same. So it's really up to you of who you want to work with to provide that service for you, and to give you insights into which services, or, you know, which products we should be, you know, consuming. But I think, yeah, ultra transparency is definitely key. Yeah.
Perfect. So I just got word from Lucas that Andy has confirmed he will do a role play. So he just put that in the comments right now. So we will find some time to schedule that, and that might be the next one or something like that. You'll definitely see it come out from us. We love to be engaged and continue to provide value to you guys. So we'll let you know when this happens. A bunch of thank yous coming in. No, thank you guys for attending. Really appreciate it, and really appreciate you guys all being on the platform as well. I think this one here, Eric, was just kind of some feedback on an advisor sharing what he does. We never mention any names or anything like that. So it's saying that, you know, my company charges 2%. I charge the same, but 1% goes to them, 1% goes to me. This is the advice model.
Yeah. So yeah, like if it's a fund or a mutual fund or a managed portfolio or whatever, like you're telling them obviously what the total cost is, and then you tell them like 1% of that comes to me. So it's kind of like a split. It's generally how the industry works as a whole. So yeah, it's just tell them what it is. And it really, there's actually, what was it? Invesco did a study like 10 years ago when I was working at Wood Gundy, but it showed like that like people are willing to spend, it was like 2.2% in additional fees to stay with an advisor that they trust and respect, and that they feel like they get good service from, which is a bit of a scary stat for the sake of humanity, because they shouldn't be spending that much more. But it was really highlighting the value of the relationship. So it really doesn't come down to price. Price is an issue in the absence of value, per the quote. It really doesn't come down to price, and it is generally a breeze through conversation if you're hitting all the steps properly and it's coming up in step 5. So if it's a huge talking point, then generally you failed at the rapid rapport, the personal stories, and the needs analysis. If you can get through all that, then it's usually pretty easy.
Perfect. So this one is, so he prefaced it with more of a comment than the question, but I'll read it out anyway. So I believe the script is very good. My issue with following blindly is that I need it to be my own first, which I completely agree with, which for me means using the same structure continuously. In other words, I don't want to have one approach for Planswell leads and something else for my other leads, because sooner or later I'll blow it. So with that, today's presentation lays down the principles that will help me accomplish this standardization I'm looking for. So that's exactly what. Bang on.
Yeah, it's the same process. I've used it. I've sold like 20 different things. It's the exact same process. And this is all laced in. Like, this is the underlying theory and fundamentals. It's in our script. What I'm giving you today isn't script. I give you certain lines, like the money line. But yeah, definitely make it like, be confident with it, right? If you get into something and you're reading a script and you don't feel confident about it, that step 7. It's not going to work. There's another line, like, whether you think you're going to succeed with it or you think you're going to fail, you're right. So like, the number one most important thing, and I think people have asked Lucas as well before, they're like, first week, didn't have enough time to really lean into it. I realized at the end I should have leaned into it more. I'm getting the leads tomorrow. What do I do? And the answer I've heard Lucas say before is like, wait, don't call them. Like, they don't go stale the way like a car sales lead goes stale. If you like, in car sales, it's unbelievable. If they tell you that they're going to buy within 3 days, like, they're going to buy within like an hour. If they tell you they're going to buy within a month, they're going to buy within the week. But if you get an inbound call at a car dealership, and you don't call them back within like 5 seconds, they're like across the street buying a car. In this industry, with this, when they're building this plan, they're not going anywhere else to build a plan. First of all, there's really nowhere else that they can. They could, go talk to perhaps some advisor somewhere if they have a high enough net worth. I'm just going to make them like a manual plan. But people are not motivated to do this. This is somebody on their couch, like, scrolling through Facebook or whatever. If you call them like 6 months from now, they're probably in the exact same financial position and still curious about when they get to retire, what their income is going to be. So they don't go super sale. Most importantly is get the confidence up. If you don't have the confidence, come to more sessions, talk to Lucas some more, reach out to us, and make sure that you're feeling super, super confident, like you own it. It's your script. And you're going to be able to do the same thing with your own clients, with these clients, with the person in line in front of you at the grocery store. You've got your process, you know what it is, you feel confident in it. And I've actually seen people with some other processes that are like not good, but they have so much confidence that they have the best process that, like, I don't think it matters. Like, I think they still have amazing close rates because the confidence, that's where it's at. That's Andy. Yeah.
Andy is plugging, so we're just laughing because Andy just Lucas is talking on behalf of Andy in the comments, but just talking about Chris Voss and some other sources. So do you want to talk through some of the sources that we've used to build up the presentations and this material?
Yeah, I think, I had a rookie ask me a couple of years ago, they were calling all day, they were spending like 8 hours on the phone talking to everybody, and they were like, at the end of the week, it was like, look, if I have 8 hours left in the week, should I spend 7 hours calling and an hour reading a sales book, or should I spend 8 hours calling? And I was like, this is like a very interesting, philosophical debate at, 7 o'clock on a Friday night. I was like, it's the book. And like, I thought about it afterwards, like, I don't know what the right breakdown is, but like, it's always more books. Like that's you can't get too many books. I listen to audiobooks, the easiest thing. I spend about 4 hours a week driving and listen to 4 hours a week of audiobooks. But yeah, so never split the difference. I really like, and I talk about it a lot. It comes up in sales training. It's really interesting concepts. What's the other one that we did? Influence, like the art of persuasion or something. It's called Influence. That's a really like key one. We did a whole training course on that with our old team, where we do 1 chapter per week, and everybody had to read it and come in and talk about it. But those are the 2 that I would throw out there pretty quickly for any kind of sales training type stuff. And then there's like, tons of others. Definitely send me a note if you want more of a list. But Yeah, How to Win Friends and Influence People is still an all-time great. It's written in like 1930s, but people, crap on it a little bit for being a bit insincere in certain points and being a bit like sleazy in other points. But like, I disagree with all that. I think like the key is always being sincere. But if you can use people's name like 50% more in sentences, and like you can like these tactics are so powerful. Like if you get caught using them by like another salesperson and like it comes off as insincere, like yeah, whatever. But like if you could do it sincerely, like those tactics are super powerful.
Cool. So that's the other ones. That was
Yeah.
okay. So one is like, thank you, Eric. I haven't called my leads. I came a week ago feeling stressed to go stale, but I wanted to get a chance to hear this session, practice more before scripting. Yep, that's not a problem. They will not go stale. We've Planswell 1.0, we had data to prove that we've closed people that created plans 6, 8, 9 months ago, and we called them, and it required a slight update of one number, and that's about it. And then the picture was exactly the same as it was before when we first started. So yeah, I don't think that's a big concern.
Yeah, the only thing that comes up with that, and that people miss this sometimes, but it's in the training, is that not everyone thinks of what they just did as building a plan. So sometimes people that don't go through the training don't pay attention too much. They get on the phones, they're like, hey, you built the financial plan like 2 days ago with Planswell. And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then the advisor comes back to us, there's all BS. It's like, no, they actually clicked on an ad that asked them, proposed that they could share when they get to retire, or they could learn, what their retirement income is going to be, or they could learn if they're contributing properly to their retirement, accounts right now. They clicked that ad, they went to the Planswell website. They probably didn't notice the name of the company Planswell. They click start now, and then they answered a bunch of questions, and then they got served with a bunch of information that they didn't really ask for, on top of like the basic information that they wanted to know. That's what they did, and that's what they remembered as in their mind. The term financial plan doesn't register. So often, and then the longer it goes by before you call them, it just that initial refresher of who the heck you are. It's using that language of like, remember you saw something on the internet, you clicked an ad about this and tried to figure out when you get to retire, and you answered a bunch of questions on the internet. Does that ring a bell? Those are the kinds of lines that help, especially when they get a little bit older. But yeah, it's fun. Like people need financial help. You have amazing insights. They already did it. You just want to share with them. It takes a few minutes. Like whether it's like 5 years later, like why wouldn't they take the call? Like it's going to be good. And that's it.
I think that's it. So I shared some reasons
Awesome.
in the chat for you. And then, yeah, we're going to be emailing out a bunch of stuff following this.
Cool. Thanks everyone for coming. That was a lot of fun, and we'll do it again soon.
And for you, those of you that are still around, you'll always see me Tuesday and Thursdays. Please come to those sessions. It's a great time to come, and we answer these types of questions and all this type of feedback. We handle it on Tuesdays and Thursdays every single time. So please feel free to join us on those sessions as well. That's my free plug for the night. Perfect. Thank you very much, everyone.